We're going to bring in our next guest, and his name is Ryan Wenz. He is at Soapbox, and his Twitter handle is Queer a la Mode. And you may remember, because we mentioned him, he was the person who had the Chip, Eric Estrada, showed up at his house. California Highway Patrol showed up at your house over an allegedly threatening tweet against AOC. I guess we have to get into the serious stuff because we're going to get this out of the way and then we'll talk more about dating. But tell us what happened to you. And I'm not making light of it. Something serious. I'm so bloated. Wow. I had way too much. Oh my God. I don't know how to contour. I need to contour. Okay. Sorry. But back to the serious. No, I'm bloated. God, much like the Pentagon budget, I'm bloated.
That's a great segue.
Good, right? Okay.
Great
For real.
Why don't you tell the story that happened to you?
Yeah. Okay, so on Wednesday, I tweeted a video from a live stream that AOC did with this guy named Michael Miller. It was a really disappointing response about Palestine. And as someone who's been on the ground in the West Bank, I was really, for someone who brands themselves as the most progressive member of Congress, I think that this issue should be pretty clear. And you should, at least if you're trying to appeal to liberals, I guess, you should be able to use that Human Rights Watch speak of saying, Israel's committing human rights abuses every single day against Palestinians. I'm not even asking her to say that Israel's an apartheid state or to support BDS or whatever.
Or one state, you don't have,
Exactly. I wasn't even expecting that, but I was just expecting within the first 30 seconds that she would condemn Israel's policies towards Palestinians, because that seems like a pretty bare minimum response. Yeah. Instead, she gave a horrible answer that lasted about 2 minutes. She waited 2 minutes to say the word Palestinians.
Should I show it? We showed it so 3 times the other day. I don't want to trigger my audience.
I think everyone's seen it. It's been so watched. I can't watch it anymore. Okay, It's it makes me angry.
Yeah, sorry.
And it's also just poorly worded.
And I could have worded my response in a way stronger way. I could have said that it was insulting to Palestinians, because it is. And, that it's just kind of cowardly to waffle on an issue that's so clear. I just responded saying that it was an incredibly underwhelming response.
It was not insulting. When you say you should have
I said underwhelming.
Underwhelming, right.
I'll be right back.
She's calling Capitol Police.
She's like, I can't deal with this tweet. It's way too threatening.
All right. Okay, here we go. On April 1st, AOC did a live stream with Michael Miller, the head of the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York. She was asked about peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Her response was incredibly underwhelming, to say the very least.
And the tweet blew up. And then the next day, I was visited by 2 plainclothes California Highway Patrol officers who said that they were at my house on behalf of the Capitol Police because I had tagged a sitting member of Congress in a tweet saying that I threatened to kill her. So I typically don't really tag politicians in my tweets, just because I don't know, I just don't do that. But I did this time because I thought that maybe she would be able to see it actually, and see that I was really disappointed with this response, and that a lot of people were. And I'm sure she did. But apparently a day later, I had these officers show up at my house and ask me a bunch of really invasive questions. It was a really bizarre situation.
You get a knock on the door. What happens?
Yeah, I was outside in front of my apartment and I was waiting for a Postmates order. I see 2 heads bobbing up and down on the other side of the gate. And they're yelling my name, Ryan, Ryan. And my name isn't on my Twitter account. Not that it's super hard to find my name, just because I host Left Bitches and I'm on Soapbox. So I'm sure people can find it that way. I was still kind of weirded out, and I approached them and they showed me their badges. They asked if they could come in and I said no. And I went around the side to ask what was up. And they said that they initially didn't specify that it was AOC that was apparently threatened, but they said, we got a report that your Twitter account, Queer a la Mode, which they said out loud, and I laughed a little bit. I said, I don't remember sending out a tweet threatening to kill a member of Congress yesterday, because that's what
we've all gotten really drunk and then forgotten that we've, done something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
Right.
initially, they weren't specifying that it was AOC. They just said a sitting member of Congress. And then as they continued to ask me questions, they said, yes, it was AOC. You tagged her in the tweet and you threatened to kill her. And I said that I just was underwhelmed by a response that she gave in a live stream, and that's an enormous leap to make.
Yeah, that's not really threatening or lethal or deadly.
No. And I could have said like that it was insulting. I could have said that it was fucked up. I could have used much harsher language. And even then I should not be visited by
You don't need to explain
California Highway
yourself.
Patrol.
That was
Right,
the softest touch of a tweet imaginable. It is the most polite criticism you could have possibly made in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
This is
Underwhelming.
outrageous.
Yeah, that's.
Did you immediately know what tweet they were talking about?
No, because they just said that I threatened to kill a member of Congress. And I didn't even think about that tweet because it was so mild. It didn't even cross my mind. And then eventually they specified that it was AOC, that I had tagged in the tweet, and that it was a tweet from the day before. That's when it all became clear to me that it was because of that tweet. And then they proceeded to ask a bunch of really invasive personal questions about my mental health, whether I have family living around here, what my politics are, what I do for work, and a number of other really personal questions that, I responded, I'm not going to answer you unless I have a lawyer next to me. They asked if I have guns. I said no. And they asked if I have any intention to kill a sitting member of Congress, and I said no. And I just tried to make that as clear as possible because I wanted them to stop harassing me. But that's pretty much, it was about 10 minutes. And they insinuated that I should look into if anyone hacked into my account and I should change my password because they were so convinced that I was the one who threatened to kill AOC. So yeah, that's the interaction that went down on Thursday.
And Farah points out, threat of such a knock at the door is enough for most to self-censor, which I think is important to say. Yeah.
So also, like, I thought it was interesting that that AOC denied that she or her office had anything to do with it, and there was also a few, like Ryan, I know you had told me someone had reached out to you, being like, "Oh, the Capitol Police showed up at my door over a tweet about a congressperson," where they were like, "I want to kick this congressperson's ass." And the Capitol Police had shown up. Somebody else had tweeted that the FBI had showed up at their house in recent days over a mean tweet about Ted Cruz. So my theory on this, we still don't know what happened. I know there's a lot of journalists looking into it, but my theory on this is that this is part of like a broader expansion of power of the Capitol Police, like after January 6th, where they, they botched it so bad. Like all of this riot was planned on Twitter. It was planned online on these social media apps, and they were unprepared. And they were mocked and also criticized around the country and by people in power. So it seems to me this is like a new disturbing level that we should all be very concerned about, of trying to, go after tweets. Like, it's really frightening, actually, what happened. You were visited at your home by a law enforcement agency on behalf of the Capitol Police over a tweet, and they're changing their story about it. Like now they're saying, oh, because actually, Ryan, I talked to you a little bit after it happened. And when you first told me about it, I was like, maybe it was like someone fucking with you. Because like, why would it just
like,
didn't
did
make
you think
sense.
they were strippers at first?
Yeah, like, because they were in plain clothes too. It's so odd.
Oh, no, if they're plain clothes, they won't look like strippers. I'm sorry.
But one of the more recent developments that's really unsettling is, those two people that said that they had been visited by law enforcement in recent days. It was because of their tweets.
Right.
My tweet was not a threat. And then after that interaction, apparently after some journalists got in touch with the Capitol Police, they changed their story and said that it was a response to my tweet, a reply, which is really weird because am I supposed to be responsible for every single reply to one of my tweets? That's not how Twitter works. That's not how the internet works.
Yeah, like YouTube isn't a publisher, but you are.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the only difference, is that like it wasn't even my tweet that they were apparently concerned by. But then why did they visit me? Is that a new expansion post January 6th? If so, that's a really dangerous, slippery slope that I think everyone should be concerned about.
Did they show you the tweet? Like, how did they even communicate this to you?
No, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I didn't even want to bring out my phone because I just thought that would open like a can of worms, and I wanted to, minimize the engagement. But I was just like, all I said was that I was disappointed, that I was underwhelmed by this response, and they kept sticking with this narrative that it was me, that I was the one who not just threatened AOC, but threatened to kill AOC.
That's wild.
And then when did you learn that there was a tweet in response to your tweet that was the thing that made them say, I mean, I don't want to justify it. It's not like it's okay for them to show it at your house, but when is it that you realized that the thing that they were even responding to was not your tweet, but a response to your tweet?
Yeah, it was about a day later, and I think it was because Ryan Grimm tweeted something about hearing from the Capitol Police that they claimed that it was because of a reply, but I still just have so many questions,
Also, that tweet has conveniently been taken down. No one even knows what the tweet, like they're saying that another tweet is the reason, but no one.
What if it didn't even exist?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
we
what if
don't
it
even know what the offending tweet was? We never saw it?
No.
Mm-mm.
No. They said it's been taken off of Twitter. That's all they said, is it's been taken off of Twitter. It's just a really odd story.
To be fair, that doesn't surprise me. It's not, I think it's a dangerous
but then why
thing,
were the
but
police
it's pretty compatible.
Why were the police why is Ryan, think of all the crazy people who reply to your tweets and say, fuck
I know,
that shit.
yeah.
Are you
also
liable
all of
for that
it
now?
and all the screen grabbing that happens on Twitter? You're telling me that someone said
that's
something
true,
really
right.
inflammatory about
And
AOC.
no one screen grabbed it?
No one screen grabbed it? Come on, people screen.
I know.
Sometimes I get pissed off at 4 o'clock in the morning at some reply guy, and I rattle off a tweet real quick that I shouldn't do, and I delete it immediately. And someone always manages.
Yeah.
It's like there's a person.
Yeah, but
dedicated.
you have a big Twitter platform. This is a rando. People won't be watching.
So I will say the other thing about this that I was like, what the hell, as I was watching this unfold after Ryan tweeted about it, was there was a lot of people who were accusing Ryan of lying. And what I will say about Ryan tweeted, he did a Twitter thread about this. And I thought you were very kind to AOC in your Twitter thread. And you never said she's the one who called the police on you. And you specifically said, I recognize she gets targeted with a lot of awful threats. And I get that. But I really hope she looks into this. This is disturbing. I thought you were super polite and civil about it. And then there was all of these people who really love her who were accusing Ryan of making it up and of being a CIA agent trying to make AOC look bad, just crazy shit that I'm you guys gotta get over this cult of personality stuff and see the bigger picture here. This is really disturbing. It literally doesn't matter where you stand ideologically, almost do you really want people being visited by the police over their opinions on Twitter? It's as basic as that.
Well, I think that's
mild opinion in the world.
Excuse
me, sir. I was underwhelmed.
Yeah. It is the most, that's what's funny. It's it could not be more it could not be milder. Meanwhile, Bree, you and I, that person was people are gonna, what did that person say about us? I don't
bad
want
things are happening to us.
Or we're gonna have some feels or something. We're gonna be going through some things. Yeah, this weird K-Hive person said on Twitter, I didn't call the police.
And Marianne Williamson was on the hit list, so it was an attack against
and say
not a sitting congresswoman, but a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
And it's also such bullshit because we know after the Capitol riots that the law enforcement agencies were sending out messages saying, if you know anything about these people, turn them in or flag them, whatever. They showed up at my house in a day. And I said I was underwhelmed.
That's so polite. Yeah.
Maybe it means something we don't realize.
They are really, maybe it's a code. Maybe that's a code word that we just don't know about.
I kind of want to take it at face value for a second and just imagine that everyone who is feeling a little underwhelmed is actually wanting to commit murder. Just
there's going to
so
be
underwhelmed I have to kill this person.
There's going to be such a roundup, guys. No one will be safe. I mean,
every meaning
over a body with blood in her hands, and he looked up and said, "What happened?" And he just say,
"I was
underwhelmed." Yeah, every C-list actor is gonna go.
Yeah. And like you put the guy's name out there, which is fine. Then you say, I assume this is the tweet they were talking about where I lightly criticized AOC for a disappointing answer in response to a question about Palestine, Israel. This is completely outrageous. I was visited by two police at my home over a harmless tweet about AOC. I felt scared, intimidated, and violated. They knew my name and where I live. It was done on behalf of a congresswoman who advocates against police state tactics. I'd really appreciate it if AOC could look into this. I recognize she probably receives a lot of threats, but I shouldn't be harassed by police for critiquing her policies. Ryan Graham writes that police did show up at this person's door over a post about AOC is confirmed. The open question is who sent them and why. If AOC was actually responsible for and denied it, the Capitol Police would eagerly out her. So her denial has serious credibility. Okay. The animosity between her and the Capitol Police after January 6th is widely known. Capitol Police confirms it was not from AOC.
Ryan Grimm wants you to know that AOC did not call this in. Yeah. He's like very adamant.
Didn't the Capitol Police statement say that the congressional office called it in?
No, they said that they neither heard it. They are claiming that neither her nor her office. Because I was thinking maybe someone from her office.
One of the statements definitely said, in a generalized sense, we often respond to claims from congressional offices.
But then after that, I read the same statement. And I'm pretty sure after that it said, but we didn't receive this from her or her office, which I was surprised by because I really did think it was probably someone in her office.
Right.
And maybe it was. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was someone from her office. I could totally see that happening because the underwhelmed tweet did go viral. It made her look really bad to her base, right? Her base is quite pro-Palestinian human rights. So it wasn't a very satisfactory answer for really anybody who cares about that issue. So, but at the same time, I don't know if we'll ever know if someone from her office called it in or not, but they're saying the Capitol Police are saying no. And I think Ryan is right. Like the Capitol Police don't really have an interest in covering for AOC's congressional office. But, but again,
but I would like for her to condemn it.
Yeah. Did she condemn it? Has she condemned it? They said that it was disturbing and they want to get to the bottom of it, right? Like something generic.
But the California Highway Patrol, the people who visited me at my house made it clear that it was because an office felt threatened or something. I just want them to, even if they had nothing to do with it, but it was done in their name, I would like for her to publicly condemn this because I think this is a really disturbing development. And if she is the progressive that she says she is, then she should stand against this. This is clear. This is a clear overreach and it's being done in her name. And I would really like it would give me a lot of, provide me a lot of peace if she could actually say something about it.
I also do think it was disturbing when a couple months ago, and I know this was directed at the right, but she sent out this email to her supporters, asking them to please report tweets. And I definitely have not liked her positions on social media tech giants and wanting them to clamp down on free speech. I'm really opposed to that because as we see repeatedly over and over, it gets used against the left. Because that's who's in charge, right? It's people who are right wingers and libs with right politics who are in charge of the internet. You really want to give them authority to tell us what's good and bad speech. And I do think that that definitely makes her look really bad. And if someone in her office, she should come out and condemn it. And as I say, I also don't know why else the Capitol Police would have flagged this tweet. Are they monitoring? Are they sitting around?
Maybe one of her
monitoring?
fans did. Maybe one of her people who she charged with that. I mean, I think that what's interesting is that, Ryan, you were saying you would like her to condemn this overreach, but I think there's a major problem with kind of the quote unquote left in general, where people think that they don't see this as overreach. They think that and I think it's a bit of a Trump derangement syndrome, which we have to come up with a word for that from the left. But people see it as you are standing against hate and white supremacy and violence and QAnon by protecting people and they don't really interrogate or look at like who's doing the protecting and what that protection means. So I think that overreach is like very accepted. And then you have this like kind of really, I think, very misguided leftist thing where it's like, fuck that, like free speech doesn't exist. It's a bourgeois concept. And like, you don't have free speech unless you're rich. And like, we don't have a free media unless you're, you know, because look at, and it's like, yeah, duh, all of that stuff is true. The question is like, do we want the powers of like content moderation or the police state to be expanded? And I do think that like lots of people who agree with us on most things disagree with us on that.
Yeah.